And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan, and this is your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And setting the stage here for Thursday, Friday to close out the work week, we do have an area of low pressure in the North Pacific that's going to gradually work its way across the central Aleutians. This low is down into the lower 80s, so it's fairly strong, and it does have some certainly at least gale force winds. The frontal system will be advancing eastward across the eastern Aleutians up into the lower Alaska Peninsula, along with areas of rain and rain showers. Meanwhile, by the time we get into Thursday, that low will still be just south of the central Aleutians. But here over the mainland, there is a ridge of high pressure, especially northern half of the state. It's heating things up. We've seen temperatures in the 80s in through the central eastern interior. Daytime heating leads to thunderstorms, even a few showers and isolated storms in the morning Thursday across the interior. And then back out here in the Panhandle, some lingering areas of lighter rain or rain showers. The other thing we have going on is some smoke, not just from fires within the interior, but also some smoke that's been transported out of northwest Canada, affecting areas of the eastern interior. Then along the Chukchi Sea, just off the Chukchi Sea and west coast down and through the eastern Bering, we have widespread IFR conditions as a result of the cool water temperatures and the moisture that's available in the low levels of the atmosphere, creating areas of lower stratus and some fog. Thursday afternoon, thunderstorms reignite, isolated to scattered storms throughout much of the interior, south slopes of the Brooks Range along the middle upper Yukon, upper half of the Kuskokwim River Basin, along areas of the Alaska Range, Talkeetna Mountains, northern, especially areas of the Copper River Basin. Still some MVFR conditions down here in the southern half of the Panhandle. There'll be a few lingering showers still in that area. And then Friday morning, there still could be a lingering isolated thunderstorm up through the middle upper Yukon Valley. Otherwise, IFR conditions out over the Gulf. Generally VFR much of the mainland. IFR once you get off of Cape Lisburne and west of Utqiagvik, and then we find IFR conditions hugging the North Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then IFR Pribilovs out on through the Aleutian chain for Friday morning. Friday afternoon, we see those thunderstorms redevelop across the interior, scattered storms, increasing the threat too of additional fire starts from lightning strikes. And again, there will be areas of haze and smoke as a result of those ongoing wildfires, because the fire danger just increases here through the end of this week. IFR conditions expected out over off of the Gulf Coast, outside of the Panhandle and the Eastern Gulf. Some IFR on the southeast side of Kodiak Island and on the North Pacific side of the Central Aleutians out of Chitnik. And then again, IFR conditions as you get out in the Chukchi Sea, St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew, St. Paul, and then especially through the central and western Aleutians. Pass conditions Thursday, generally VFR conditions Anaktuvik Pass as well as Adigan Pass, but there will be that threat of an isolated to scattered thunderstorm. And then as we drop southwest arm of the Alaska Range, generally VFR conditions, but some cumulus buildups and scattered showers and storms could fire up in the afternoon, early evening hours. Thursday, same thing, rainy pass, VFR, but some cumulus buildups and a shower thunderstorm not out of the question in vicinity of pass. Windy, VFR, as will be Isabel and Mentasta. All those generally VFR conditions, though there could be some smoke or haze and the threat of cumulus buildups with a scattered shower thunderstorm likely in the vicinity of those passes. Down into the Copper River Basin, Tanita Pass, also VFR, but a scattered shower thunderstorm could develop in vicinity of the pass. And Portage Pass, even there, get back out a little bit more inland from there. VFR expected, but an isolated shower storm possible. And then finally up in the north end of the Panhandle there, we're looking at MVFR conditions on Thursday morning, Chilkoot and White becoming VFR. So this clearly shows on the freezing levels. The surface freezing line has retreated up into the upper portion of the Chukchi Sea along and off the coast there of the Beaufort Sea. But most notably, because of that ridge of high pressure over the mainland, we have freezing levels aloft in excess of 10,000 feet over the Brooks Range, the middle upper Yukon, the Alaska Range. So warm air in place here. We find freezing levels fall below 6,000 feet, the southern end of the Panhandle toward Haida Gwaii, and then also out here toward the western Bering, where we find freezing levels below 6 and even down near or just below 4,000 feet. But with the frontal system, with the low that's coming up from the south and the frontal system, a little slightly warmer air south of the Aleutians, we find freezing levels above 10,000 feet. Now, greatest threat for icing and where there is precipitation in terms of more of a stratiform precipitation around low pressure and some fronts. Back out here into the central lower Bering and especially central Aleutians. Up in the central Bering above 8,000 feet, some moderate icing there, above 10,000 feet along and north of the central Aleutians, and then along and south of the central Aleutians into the North Pacific, we would expect icing in those thicker precipitation producing clouds above 12,000 feet, in some showers, areas of lighter rain in the Panhandle above 10,000 feet, and then of course here in the interior, a scattering of showers and thunderstorms that pop up with the daytime heating. Watch out for certainly icing potential, but higher up, getting above 10,000, 12,000 feet. And on top of that, there's always that threat of some downburst winds in the vicinity of storms and smoke and haze from any of the ongoing fires. Jet stream level winds pretty light over the mainland at 30,000 feet. We do have some stronger winds out in the North Pacific, well south of the Alaska Peninsula and Gulf. As we look at 9,000 feet, 700 millibars, there's the low circulation there just south of the central Aleutians with a band of southeasterly winds from the lower part of the Alaska Peninsula to north of there, back through the Pribilovs, topping out around 55 knots. And we find some offshore flow over the central southern part of the Panhandle at 9,000 feet there, 35 knots or so. And then finally at 3,000 feet, most notably, this is a pretty strong low for this time of year, lower 980s millibars, and we have winds out of the southeast to south pulling up across the far eastern Aleutians into the lower half of the Alaska Peninsula, winds of 45 to 65 knot pulling back across the Pribilovs. So we find the potential for some isolated severe turbulence, eastern Aleutians into the lower part here of the Alaska Peninsula, and a broad area of moderate turbulence, the Alaska Peninsula, especially the central southern Alaska Peninsula, extending all the way out along the Aleutians, with some areas of moderate turbulence expected kind of on the periphery of that stronger circulation at St. Paul, off Cape Newingham, and on the south side there, Nunavik Island. All within this region, we expect turbulence surface to 4,000 feet, along with the threat of some low-level wind shear in the vicinity of that front.